and you're moving up. You
Mm.
know, there's so many things that we do that, and they want us to because see, the the way the rich man manufactures wealth is by having you serve them. You know,
Mm.
that whole trickle down philosophy is crap. Money flows up. It doesn't even trickle up. It flows up. You know,
Mhm.
any amount of money that a poor person have, they have to spend it to survive. The more money rich people have, they can save it. They can hold on to it. Okay. Um, so basically, what one of the things that we truly need to do is learn how to save. If you ever pay attention, well, I think you're old enough to remember when banks used to advertise savings accounts. Now
Oh,
you never hear anything about a savings account. What you hear about is credit cards.
yeah, you need to get this credit. You need to build the credit. If you don't get this credit, then you won't be able to get a house later on. If you don't get
And
the house,
we teach each other, and there used to be you used to save money to get a house. Now it's to build your credit up. You know,
hmm
those two different dichotomies are hurting us because as a even as people in other countries, people in poorer countries save more of their income than we do,
mm,
you know. And but basically, this is how we spur this economy along by spending poor people spending every dime they have and every new product that comes out, and they got to have and it's part of the thing that it it runs the corporate welfare because oil companies get subsidies. They make billions and billions of dollars, but the government pays them subsidies. It's craziness. Uh, Rich farmers get subsidies, and poor farmers barely can make it.
mm.
You know, so we, as a people, we need to do this thing. And when you say wake up, it's the Republicans have made woke a bad word, but we should wear it on our chest. The same way Obama did when they first started calling Obamacare, they did that because they thought that that would make people hate it because they knew how much they hated Obama. And so then what the Democrat Party did was they started wearing it like a badge, Obamacare. This is what we
Mhm.
want you to have, and it turned out that he was right. Okay. So this is the thing that with things like woke that we have to do is we have to start saying, yes, I am, you know, I am going to look out for myself. I am going to read those books you don't want me to read, you know,
Mhm.
because basically we are God, I don't know. We are allowing somebody else to describe us, to tell the world who we are. We need to tell the world who we are.
But I think that seems to be the ultimate goal. There's been a lot of talks about them making intelligence a utility. Where you have to pay for it type of thing. There is, in a way, well, many ways, they are dumbing down the culture and different things like that to make people rely on these technologies and stuff. It's like, um, it seems like there's a lot of different elements at play when it comes to like the theft of the motivation of like the American people and stuff, and probably like the world at large. Because like one of the things I've been seeing, like a lot of things that's been happening is like you've been seeing this shift like on the world stage from America to the other larger powers like Russia and China. But I find it interesting, like when I was growing up, and I'm sure when you was growing up, we always thought that Russia was like not good, And it's like even though if it wasn't good, it wasn't for us to meddle in their affairs. And like that's the reason why we had the Cold Wars for the most part, is because we was like we're going to try to stay out of trying to stop Russia from doing whatever Russia's doing, but we do realize if they do whatever they're doing, it's going to be a problem for us. So we're going to continue to build this war up, but we're not going to tell anybody basically. And it seems like a lot of the a lot of like multiple different things are coming together into one specific situation because like kind of bring it back to what you were talking about. I think um well I'm gonna ask this question. Do you think like Jim Crow wasn't just used on the slaves, it was also used on the poor white folks to kind of engineer this mentality that we currently have now, where it's like this division of like this person thinks they're better than this person solely based on their skin color or ethnicity or something like that?
Well, first thing you have to understand is the dirt poor white person wouldn't have had enough sense to engineer Jim Crow.
Mm,
Okay. It was like when I talk about that, when you go into these small towns, you always find these one or two rich families that control everything.
mm,
These are the people who engineered it by keeping uh by keeping the white man down,
mm,
okay, and then telling him, "Oh no, it's not my fault, it's their fault." You
mm,
see? And it's still happening, whereas they keep these people dirt poor and ignorant, and then they tell them, "Oh no, it's not me, the big corporation or the big landowner in your community that's holding you back. It's those other poor people that come in here that taking your jobs." You know,
mm,
you know, for some reason, I have to pay them less than I can pay you, you know? And,
mm.
it's like when they say that immigrants come in and they get paid less than an American pay, then make a law that says you can't pay them less,
Like yeah,
you know?
but
See
that's
that?
mm,
Go
but
ahead.
that's like kind of interesting discussion because it's like the thing I find most interesting when it comes to like the ism word uh, is that it seems like it's so much built on just this ideology that I'm at any cost I'm better than you. Like, and it kind of like when somebody like, and it's like it's been documented that like a lot of people who feel this type of like mentality spend their time not just saying, okay, I'm better than them, but when like somebody of a different culture gets to a higher level, they hate on them. Like they spend their whole time hating on them. And like that's where you get the things like the Tulsa massacre and different things like
Of
that.
course.
And like all these places getting slaughtered because like the all it is just a bunch of people just raising themselves up, quote
Mhm.
unquote, by the bootstraps, you know? So it's like I think because of all the things that had built this country, slavery, Jim Crow, the current crop of like neo-fascist, whatever the fuck's going on there. Um, because like I think the thing that I've been realizing the most is a lot of people who are dictating this whole story as far as like one race is better than another, don't really have a dog in the race, you know? Like they're not really an Aryan person to be like, oh well, you know. But then when you look at the larger picture, they don't even really care so much. They're just like, as long as you guys keep fighting, I can pick your pockets and get richer,
Mhm.
you know. And then I could trick you to think, when these laws come down, I could just trick you to vote for them, even though they're in your totally not in your good interest to do that,
Well,
and it's just
there are about a dozen people in the world that are in the race to become the first trillionaire. And they are doing ridiculous, remarkable things to get themselves to stay in that race. They're gutting corporations. Uh, of their, it's like there was a time. I'm gonna use a term like Black and Decker. Okay,
mm,
if I wanted to go out and buy a power tool, I see the word Black and Decker on it, I buy it because
yeah.
they make a great tool. They're going to make a great tool. Now what happens is a guy can come out with a great idea, whether it's Hewlett Packard or whomever, and they work hard and they build up a corporation. But when they go public, once it goes on to the stock market, it's no longer about the product. it's about the stock price. Okay.
Mm,
And because it's about the stock price, and because we allow them to pay themselves in stock, okay, then they will degrade the product. You can lay off in a major corporation, you could lay off 10% of your workforce and make your stock price go up just because of on the books, it looks like you're doing better.
mhm,
Now, you might not do better 3 years from now because you did that, but today you look better. But now, if you're getting paid in stock, you already took that money home by the time your company goes into decline.
mhm. Like, yeah,
You know?
that's one of the biggest moves I've been seeing with the private equity. Buying up a lot of like, Joann's Fabrics. They tried to short GameStop, but that whole thing happened. It seems like it's been a consistent thing to kind of consolidate um, financial powers in these corporations and stuff. You have like the current Warner Brother Paramount deal that's being pushed through, and at first glance you would be like, "Oh, that was stupid of them to spend way more than what the studio or any of that's worth." When a Netflix was going to buy just the studio for like 82 billion dollars or things like that.
Mm,
But what it came down to is that they really don't want the movie stuff. They could say like they're gonna make the millions off of that. They're
mm.
gonna be able to do whatever they're gonna do. But what they were more interested in was being able to control CNN. Like
Yes,
CNN is
yes.
like one of the biggest like threats to you know the Democratic or the Republican situation. Not solely just because it's this large corporation because large corporations are going to corporations regardless of what happens. Like there's been a current shift even without their merger. There's been like a shift to like introduce more Republican commentators onto the show. Like I think there may be like one or two like Republican hosts on CNN, and like they did it on like NBC, NBC, and all these other shows. But it seems like the goal with the merger with Warner Brother and Paramount is to get the TV networks,
Yeah.
most specifically the news networks, to
Information.
come like yeah,
Information is power. You know,
like yeah,
I think a lot of people don't pay attention to the fact that corporations are the new kingdoms.
yeah,
Okay. Now, that's another reason why we end up in all of this us versus them as far as the countries is concerned. But
mm,
it's really about the corporations that have grabbed the land and have power in which countries. Okay.
mm,
Um, there was a time when kings ruled everything. And they owned the land, and you rented or lived on the king's land and produced for him.
mm,
Now corporations have taken that place. Corporations are vying for power. Okay,
mm,
when a company tries to buy up all of the hospitals in an area, they're not doing it because they want to help people. They're doing it because they're amassing power. When
mm,
a corporation decides to buy up uh, all of the agriculture in an area, they're not
mm,
doing it because they want to make sure that everybody can eat. They want it because they can amass power. And a
mm,
lot of people don't. Like it's like that thing about money. There's a certain amount of money, economists and sociologists can tell you that after you have a certain amount of money, no more money will make you any more happier or make your life any better. Okay. But
mm.
so every other dime that you see them out scrapping for is about power. It's not about the money itself. It's about the power the money allows them to have.
But here's an interesting question
Mm,
that can be posed by that. If there's only a limited amount of resources, right? As far as like what the dollar is based on.
Mhm.
It's like it used to be based on gold, but I think you can safely say it's not just based off of gold. It's probably more based off of like the accumulated wealth of America, you know, that type of thing. You get a bond, you invest in America, you know, the debt, the whole different story. But I think a lot of what's happening now is where you're talking about money. Is like there's been like a couple of different times where they did quantitative easing, introduce more printed money into the marketplace, thus, putting more slices of pie into, the pie. It's still the same size pie, it just got some more slices in it. So
Well,
it's like, what are they really getting? Because it's like these trillionaires, like back in the '90s, would have just been millionaires, or billionaires.
well,
So it's
right
like,
now, the thing is, you will do research on the petrodollar, okay?
mm-hmm,
Money, the world markets are not so much based in gold as they are in oil,
mm-hmm,
okay? The United States made a deal with one of the kings of Saudi Arabia years and years ago
mm-hmm,
about they would only sell their oil in US currency. Okay. And at that point, they were it as far as the oil producers were concerned.
mm-hmm,
So then that means that everybody else is exchanging. It's the reason why we claim that we have all this oil, but when the oil got cut off in, uh, um, in Iran in the Straits, our prices went up
yeah,
because the world market for oil is in US dollars.
yeah,
So that's the reason why the prices here for petroleum products went up, even though there's no way it could have affected us immediately
mm-hmm,
uh, by commodity, but it affects us immediately because the market is made. It's every all oil is sold in U.S. dollars. It's not sold in anything else. I believe that's going to change sometime soon, and that's going to hurt us bad. But right now, all oil is sold in U.S. dollars.
like yeah, because I heard that you heard of bricks, haven't you?
Brexit,
Bricks,
yes.
where
Where excuse me, the British and several other countries are starting to form more of a union as far as uh, productivity and some types of monetary collaborations, I believe.
I know I'm talking about the one is Brazil, Russia, India,
Yeah,
China,
those are the
and
ones.
Spain.
I had to, okay, yeah, I had the wrong country, but yes,
But it's the same concept
at
though.
that
Like,
time.
because like right now there's been talk about like the Golden Corridor, which is basically like this place they built like they're building like vaults throughout Africa to house the money that they're going to be getting from the yuan. The yuan, I think it's called. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it seems like the play is China and their group over here is now taking that oil that isn't being sold from the Strait of Hormuz and selling it in their market and then paying them in the yuan, or whatever their currency is. So, like you were saying, it's going to upset the market. But I think the more interesting thing about it is that it seems like the BRICS alliance is going for more tangible resources and things like that. While like the EU and like America is all going for like digital assets and things like that. Like they're going full steam into like making digital currency like the main thing and stuff like that. So it's just really interesting to see all these things come together. And it's like I think one of the discussions that we were having is like, and it kind of like illustrates itself in the discussion that we have now. It's like I think a lot of people feel discouraged when it comes to like getting out and voting or participating in anything or seeing that there's a way forward when it comes to like just getting something beyond going to work every day. And there's even a lot of people who just like screw work. I'm gonna go do something else or whatever. But it all seems like at this time there are a lot of people who are looking at the political process and seeing that it's they're seeing the rig factor in it type of thing, but they're not acknowledging that it still has an impact. Because if it didn't have an impact, they still wouldn't be trying to take it away. So it's like in that whole discussion about that, like what would you tell people who want to sit on the sidelines to just be woe is me about like what's going to happen in the world? You know, even if it's not just like voting, but it's actually like getting out, like cleaning up the streets or going volunteering at your local, rec center or something like that. Anything to change the narrative of that's happening now. Like, but saying I'm powerless to do that. Like, what would you say to somebody
I think
who's
the
voting?
first thing I would say is go find a therapist you can afford, whether it's through welfare or whether your insurance company or what you can afford to pay out of your pocket. Find if
Hmm.
that's where your head is right now, you might want to talk to a therapist.
Hmm.
Um, but beyond that, like you said, start doing something because one of the things that because what you're talking about is more or less like a depression or an anxiety. And the thing
Hmm.
that feeds those things is inaction.
Yeah.
Okay. If you, it's like, it always, see, I'm a spiritual person. So I believe like this. In my world, I have two real sets of problems. One is a stack of problems I can do something about, and there's a
Hmm.
stack of problems I can't do anything about.
Hmm.
And the problems that I can do something about, I work on them. And the problems I can't do anything about, I put that in God's hands. And I found out that when I work on my problems, the problems that I can work on, the other stack goes down too.
Hmm.
Okay, but like realistically, what most people don't pay attention to is the fact that you have to have the mindset that I can do.
Yeah.
It's if you sit back and think, I have never won anything in my life, you're lying because you won the first race you ever won. You beat out all those other little spermies. Okay. So you have won something. Okay. Um, and so we have this tendency to walk out the door. And if it's sunshine, oh, it's too hot. If it's raining, oh, it's too cold. And it's too wet. And it's always, we don't see the flowers. We don't see the blue skies. We don't see the stars at night. The average person doesn't even know or could not remember the last time they looked up in the sky and saw the moon in the middle of the day because we don't look around.
Yeah.
And what the thing that we need to do is, I say this, find something good. At the end of every day, think back, no matter how bad the day was, think back and find something good that happened and focus on it. Even if you saw the first flower of spring, heard the first robin sing,
Hmm.
um, uh, uh, your kids smiled at you about something or told you a stupid ass joke. You know, always find something good because see, a lot of us, what we do is we pay so much attention to the nitpicky, mealy mouth crap that goes on in our lives that we don't take a chance to look at the fact that there's so much good going on in the world. We can walk past 10 people who smile at us, and the first person who looks at us wrong, that's the only person we're going to remember the rest of that day.
Yeah.
And we need to get out of that bag.
So, do you think that in some ways that's being manufactured to be the factory setting, so to speak?
It
Um,
may it may be part of our evolution because you have
mhm,
to understand, we had competed with several other hominids at some point.
Mm,
And it's probably also the reason why racism exists,
mm,
because at some point we needed to be able to distinguish our tribe from their tribe.
mm,
And I think a lot of that is built into us now. Okay, it's
mm,
part of our wiring is to be able to distinguish our tribe from their tribe. A good example of that is when my daughters were in high school,
mm,
the kids were dividing themselves up in these groups, especially white kids,
mm.
emos, goths,
Yeah, I remember that. Good
some
times.
other little tribes. So they were setting themselves up with these little tribes, right?
uh,
And I started realizing that part of it was because who wants to just be white?
yeah.
And you go into school with these great black kids and these ebony girls and this Hispanic kids and these
Mm.
Chinese kids, and what are you? I'm just white.
Yeah.
So so these kids started putting themselves, giving themselves identity.
Mm,
Okay. And this is what I derived from, I'm from the outside,
mm,
and I'm talking with some of the kids and stuff, but this is what I derived of what's going on there. So we do have a need to, because we are a herd animal. We would not,
mm.
look at us. How would we have survived if we had become, what's the word for when you separate yourself, when groups of animals separate themselves? Kind
Secluded.
of. But anyway, whatever that is, if we had been the type of animal that wanders off from each other
Mm,
and didn't huddle together and didn't herd together, we would not
mm.
have survived our upcoming. Okay,
Yeah.
so what happens is, we have a herd mentality. You put a bunch of small children in a room, they will pick a leader. They may not know that they're picking a leader, but you watch
Mm,
them, they will pick a leader.
yeah.
Okay. And that leader can say, let's go do this, and they'll go do that. And they say, let's go do this, and we'll go do that. And that it might be because that leader has the best toys, it might be because that leader is bigger, but whatever reason, they will pick a leader.
Yeah. That's an interesting discussion because like sometimes I don't think it really takes skill to be a leader, really. I think it's like who can sell it better. You know, I would say like in today's age, it seems like who can sell it better. It seemed like back in the day it was based off your skill, your ability to say, or your resources and things. But it seems like nowadays, it seems like a lot of leadership is determined by who can sell it better. You know, who can
Okay.
talk the better game, who can inspire, you know, their legions better, you know, or whatever. You know, because I think as shallow as it may sound, I think that's one of the reasons why you know, our dear leader is, you know, being able to do the things that he's able to do because he's he's more charismatic even in his frailty, even in his sickness, whatever it may be, you know, he's still charismatic, and because he's charismatic, he's able to direct people outside of the actual structure of what's going on to be like, I'm going to champion the stupidity that this guy has because you know he's singing my song. I may not like the high gas prices, but I do like the fact that he's supporting people that don't look like me. You know, I may not like the fact that we're going to war, but he is blowing up brown kids. So I'm going to suck it up. I may not like the whole Epstein situation, but this is our chance to stick it to the Democratic Party, you know? So it's like that type of mentality of like, and it seems like today, nowadays, when it comes to like the Republicans, and maybe like when you want to get into the topic of black folks, it seems like a lot of times we get sold a bill of goods and the idea that like in some cases, what I've been seeing a lot is people will use the idea is that black folks started out being Republicans and that we always need to be Republicans, and not look at the idea that this shift that happened, you know, over time, like around the '60s and different things like that. You know, there's a lot of different elements that speak to the different things, but it seems like a lot of information is picked up and carried through the masses because not because it's right, not because people believe in it, but because they believe in the person, and they look at the exuberance and the extravagance of what Donald Trump has got on, and they want that. So even though that may not be beneficial to them, they want to be a part. So in them being a part, it leaves them open to be manipulated really bad. And then you're seeing a lot of them are like starting to understand the consequences of their actions because of it, but some of them are still not really participating.
But Donald
But
Trump,
in that whole situation, I would like to ask a question: like when people, who wear the red hats, quote unquote, see the errors in in their ways, when they start acknowledging that gas prices are high because of the tariffs, do you accept them, or do you? What do you do with that?
if they understand what's going on, then I won. There's nothing to do. Okay.
Mm,
What happens is the problem is, and I'm going to tell you something. See, this is the great thing about being raised by conservatives. Okay.
mm,
Because I'm old enough to know that most of the men in my family were conservatives. I don't care how they voted, they were conservative.
mm,
Every trait you can find of a conservative, they had.
mm,
One of the biggest problems with conservatives is they make up their mind, they refuse to change it.
mm,
Okay. Now, when you sit back and you look at what's going on with the Trump phenomenon, is
mm,
no matter what was the reason that a conservative decided to go with Trump, they're happy that they're pretty much, he gives them at least lip service to what they want. If you were
mm,
there because you're a racist, he got you. If you were there for abortion, he got you. If you were there because just not so much a racist, but you just got to believe that those immigrants were taking your job, he's got you. Um, if you're rich and you want to make more billions, he's got you. And see, you can disagree with everything else he's doing, but he's doing that one thing that you, because there's this thing about this phenomenon of what I call the one issue voter.
mm,
Okay. And if he can coalesce all these one issue voters and get down, they look like they look like a group, they look like a coalition, but they're not
mm,
because it's about that one issue. With those people who voted for him because they thought that he was going to get down was going to kill Roe versus Wade,
mm,
that's why they voted for him. Those people who voted for him because the borders are wide open, and I could do a whole dialogue about how crazy that was. But like,
mm.
that's why they voted for him. So he he got this great coalition of people who probably wouldn't even speak to each other if they sat in the park together.
Mm. Well, it's well that's something I find interesting too. Like there's been like I guess you could call a phenomenon happening in hip hop culture that I don't think people are ready for. And it seems like there's a lot of like black artists, black entertainers, black businessmen who we first thought were like Democrat in some way, shape, or form without acknowledging that at certain points in their career or whatever, they pretty much said like this is what they're about and stuff. But when it comes to like the Nellies and the Snoop Dogs and the Nicki Minaj's, who clearly have an agenda on why they're associating with the MAGA group, and they're like, what do you say to that whole situation? Like, should we be upset that these people are showing their true colors? You know?
No, because if when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. That's what our favorite poet says.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
we've had that discussion.
yeah.
The it's not so much a problem about how they believe because they have a right to believe what they believe.
Mm,
My problem comes in is the amount of people who might listen to them and maybe not. completely agree with them, but use some information that they're discerning
Mhm.
as an excuse not to vote or an excuse to vote against their own interests.
Mhm.
Now, you sit back and you take a look at the last election.
Mhm.
I got, you know, how many times I heard some fool, black or Latino,
Mhm.
man, say they wasn't going to vote for Kamala Harris because she might go on her period and press the button. The woman is 60 some years old.
Mhm.
She's not going on her period. This woman is not going to be menopausal. Okay,
Mhm.
she's done with all of that. So
Okay.
this kind of stupidity, but the thing that works in politics is slogans work better than truths.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay,
forget
I
Hillary.
can if I can
Mhm.
get you, if I can get a buzz going, that works better than somebody standing up and getting on a soapbox and telling me the truth and of the matter.
Yeah. And the truth, you have to actually take time to listen. A lot of people don't want to do that nowadays. Like they don't have time to listen no more. And I think that's, I mean, I guess that's like the bigger issue about it. Is like I know in the creation of this show, a lot of people would say that a lot of what I'm doing is too long for people to grab onto because it's longer than what people can, you know, want to pay attention to. But what I'm starting to realize too is there's starting to be like a divide in the culture type of thing, like in society, where you have the people who want to educate themselves and actively educate themselves versus the people who don't. And there's no like deeper cause than that. It's just they don't want to. Like they don't want to go to the library and get a book. They don't want to look at anything other than like you know, uh, emotionally charged content online. It's not always about somebody getting a fight. Sometimes I know from my own experience, like there was like a good point for like a good like 3 weeks where I was like spazzing out because of what I was seeing online and not really taking it in. But when I started to like stop and like take it in and really kind of understand like this person is trying to get views. So in order for them to get views, they're going to immediately start their clip by saying like, "Oh, did you see what Trump did?" Instead of saying like, these are the effects and the repercussions of what's going to happen because of this bill. If you want to find out about this bill, you could go over here and look it up.
Mhm.
But en masse, more people go towards the content that's like, oh my God, Trump is saying all these evil words again, instead of saying, okay, what do those words mean? You know? So it's like, what do you see as the future when it comes to that? Like as far as like the division when it comes to people who want to educate themselves versus the people who don't. Do you think like society will go more towards the people who don't want to educate themselves? Or are you thinking that like because of the things going on, people are going to want to push more towards getting more information and being more aware of what's going on?
Um, Socially and politically, we tend to go with the pendulum swing.
Mm,
Usually, at some point, the pendulum swings too far to one side or the other for us to tolerate. Like,
mm,
I'm thinking right now, it has gone as far as it's going to go to the right. Okay. Now, the problem is more than likely it'll swing too far to the left before anybody does anything about that.
what
Okay.
does that look like?
Um, okay, the issue, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the social
Yeah.
aspects of it. So, when more talk is about uh, girls, trans kids playing in sports, trans kids going to bathrooms, more talk is about, on the left, we would say, the social issues to the point, even like the way the immigration got um, uh, radicalized. Let me show you a point. As soon as Biden got into office, Republicans rushed down to the border and kept advertising that the border was open. They sounded like 1960s used car salesmen. Come on, the border is open. Biden just opened the border. The border is open. You heard that almost every news cycle. The border is open. And then they sit back and going like, ugh, how come all these people are coming up here? Because they were advertising it. And then as soon as Trump got in the office, they went down to the border and said, you see, the border is closed. You see, the border is closed. You can't come. So we can, as a people, we need to understand that and almost up until Trump, and he's getting close to it now, Barack Obama had became known as the deporter in chief because of the amount of illegal access immigrants that came into this country. Okay. And but he was trying to do something about it. He was trying to get Congress dumbasses to reinforce laws to hire more immigration judges, because that's what we need. What we need to do is fix the system. We don't need to go, because if we had put as much money in judges as we had put into ICE, the judges would be catching up, but they don't want that. Okay, what they want is they want this to become a white Christian nation. Okay, and they will say again, but it never was. But now they want to say that they're going to make a white Christian nation again, or they're going to make it something that the Constitution says it should never be.
Well, I mean, that's an interesting discussion because, this isn't my main topic, but just to divert a little bit, it seems interesting that at the same time we say that it's not a Christian nation, it's not associated, we have this separation of church and state, but we have like the pledge of allegiance to the flag, it says, whatever it says and different things like that. You have like, when you get voted in, you have to put your hand on the Bible.
You could use it around. You could use it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
You could.
I guess I'm not saying. I guess it's not that it's a particular religion, but that religion is a part of politics. And I think the more that we realize that, the more better off we'll be. Because like a lot of what's happening right now, as far as like Israel and the Gaza Strip, some would say that it's a religious situation that's going on over there. There's I don't want to get into the weeds about some conspiracy theory, the stuff about the people who represent the whole Z thing, but at the same time, there is some connections between what's happening here and what's happening there, and what their goals are, or particularly they're saying their goals are from this the more questionable resources out there. I would say it's not to say that the stuff that I'm saying is true, but there are some evidence to say there might be some relevance to it, I guess. So it's like, I don't know. It just seems like religion plays more of a bigger part to the story than we're allowing, but not in the way that we're talking about it.
Well, actually, one of the biggest problems is people, especially in this country, don't understand Judaism. They don't understand that everybody in Israel is not a Jew, and every Jew is not religious. So there are secular Jews, there are religious Jews, and then there are Israelis. We think of them as all the same, but they're not. Okay, they don't have to be. There are Arab Jews, there are Arab Israelis, there are Black Jews in Ethiopia. Probably most of the Black Jews in that area would probably be in Ethiopia. But like, one of the things that happened here is the evangelical church and a lot of the Christian churches falsely believed that Israel has a right to exist.
Mm.
Okay, and I'm not saying that the people doesn't have don't have a right to have countries and stuff like that, but I'm just saying specifically Israel. You will never hear them say that the Palestinians had a right to exist. They will never say that the Iranians have a right, or but it's all when it comes down to that, and especially oh, say last 50 years or so.
Mm.
So what we do is we pilgrimage to Bethlehem,
Mm.
okay, and we pour in money, and you will see where churches will raise money for different causes in Israel. This country gives Israel billions of dollars in defense monies every year,
Mm.
okay? But a lot of that is done because the religious right in this country believes in Israel as an entity, not the people. In fact, you could say that since they believe that the Jews killed their Lord and Savior,
Mm.
okay, they shouldn't be, you know, uh, uh, they shouldn't feel this great love for the Jewish culture. Not That's not something that I espouse to, but I'm just saying when you look at it logically, you would think these things. Okay. But what happens now is we are defending this country, and it's easy for us to do this because of this association we've had all these years of believing that the Jews are God's people, and that because we are the majority religion in this country is Christianity, we believe that we have a kinship with the Jewish people, which they're Abrahamic religion, and so are the Muslims. You know, they all three of these religions started with Abraham.
Mm.
Okay, and so, but we have decided um, on we take the Israelis, and I won't even say the Jewish people because it was if you keep hearing the term in the Bible, most of the time it's "Oh Israel." So they take the term. They want to. We want to protect Israel, and that's part of our religious dogma. Okay, so basically, I find it. I find it one of these things. And black people, at one point,
Mm.
we were very supportive of Israel because Jewish people were supportive of us in our struggle. Okay, if you were to listen, if you had a list of all the people who were killed during the civil rights era, a lot of those names will sound Jewish.
Mm.
Okay, so a lot of us have this affinity for Israel and Jewish people because they helped us too. You know, so I mean, it's religion is a hard thing. You know, atheism is a religion.
Yeah, that's like that's a double negative right there. Like,
Basically, you got to open up to it because it is.
so basically, you
Nobody
gotta
is an
believe in something not to
atheist.
believe in it.
Pretty much, it's a religion. uh, Agnostic, maybe not so much, but if you're an atheist, pretty much that's your religion. So I mean,
Okay.
getting into uh, getting into religious dogma is interesting, and so many great books have been written on it. You know, but
Mm.
like yeah,
Well, I think we've been, having a good conversation here, but I think we probably should go ahead and start to wrap it up. So I would say, like, with all that we have discussed, with the different things and everything, the black community, current state of politics, all these different things, like, what would you say is like a statement that could sum all that up? maybe they kind of give people maybe a little bit more motivation and kind of take things a little bit more seriously. Maybe like as people have been saying, like get outside, touch some grass, maybe, you know, just anything that may kind of make people feel like, okay, maybe this is my time to kind of step up and do what I need to do.
I would say mostly to young people.
Mm,
You might look around you and see that the world is not where you want it to be. And a lot of you blame us old folks for the way the world is.
mm,
And you're right in a way, but you got to understand the world has come a long ways.
mm,
Okay. When I was a kid, I have walked past many a water fountain that said white only. I have seen doors that say white only. I have, when I got out of the Marine Corps, in my hometown, I went to the courthouse to take care of some business, and I got up there too early, so I walked into this little hotel to the bar, and the white lady left from behind the bar when I sat on the bar stool, and I was still in uniform. She went, and a black lady came up and served me.
mhm,
And a couple of days later, I had to do the same thing. So I did the same thing. I got up there early and waiting for the courthouse to open up again. I walked into the bar and sat there, and the same thing happened. But this time, the black lady came up and showed me that if I walked out of the hotel, walked around behind the building, and came in this one door, that's where most black people come in and get served. Now, it wasn't illegal. They couldn't tell me they couldn't serve me. That's the reason why she went and got the black lady to come. She wasn't going to serve me.
mm,
Okay. We have come a long ways. There are some of us who have struggled. There are people who have died. Like I mentioned before, there are Jewish people who have died. There are white people who have died to get us this far. So
mm.
when you sit back and look at this world and go like, well, what could I do? Get off your ass and do something. There's something you can do. Be the world you want to live in.
Mhm.
That's all I got to say.
I could take it. So, if you could, one more time, let people know where they can find you at.
Oh, I just post a lot on Facebook. Ricky T. Bishop. Um, a lot of my hashtag is hashtag Axe Wielding Maniac. Um, what
All
else?
right.
But
Well,
that's about it now. At some point, we'll you'll probably see me on this a few times too. So
all righty. So we're getting it going, folks. This is the episode of Free Air News. I think is a wrap. I think everything. We had some technical difficulties in the beginning, but we worked through it. And I would say, would you agree that we had a pretty good discussion despite some of the downfalls that happened in the beginning?
well, the discussion is good. We might have to work on the technical, but I think the discussion was good. I enjoy running my mouth. So hey.
Well, that's a net positive. So,
Mhm.
folks, we will see you later. Once again, this is Free Air News. This is Walter Nalley, the king of the weirdos. And we also have Ricky T. Bishop, the axe wielding maniac. You can find him on Facebook and check out some of his posts. Also, check out the Free Air News Corps. You can also check out some of his posts there as well. Uh, yeah, I think that's about it. Have a great day. Be blessed and stay protected.
All right.
And we are out. So you got any tips or anything for me?
I'll tell you what I just did.
Okay.
I put my camera down right in front of the monitor
Yeah.
because I have a habit of looking at you. So instead of me looking when I'm looking at you, I'm looking at the camera. So that's what I did. I set my camera on. I put a box right in front of my monitor and set the camera on that. So now I'm looking. When I'm looking at you, because when I'm talking to you, I keep trying to look at you. So that was a tip that I had because you still are looking down most of the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, I was thinking about that. I got like me a little 5-inch monitor, and I think I'm gonna move that to the front for the next episode, so I can look directly at the camera and stuff like that, like place it like right under it or something like that. So
mhm,
yeah, yeah, but yeah, I definitely is something I'm gonna work on getting that together. And then I think by the next episode, I should have my cam link, so I should have like a better angles and stuff like that with the camera and everything.
mhm.
Yeah, it looks like it has posted an hour and 30 minutes discussion. That's awesome. Okay. So, so what are some things like I know I need to start working on structured posts and everything like that, but what are some, is there anything that you like to incorporate it to kind of, what have you?
I don't know. Um,
Okay. Well, I will continue to refine the time clock and everything like that, and I'm going to start constructing the stories for next week.
okay.
Um, I know in the future, I definitely would like to connect with you on Google Meets and kind of go over putting together some website posts and everything to kind of go out to be scheduled to go out through overtime and stuff. So yeah, I think today's show was pretty awesome. Thank you for your assistance.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that's certainly when you're doing what you like, it's hard
Yeah.
work. You know, you know, I was telling somebody not too long ago that when I was a kid, I wanted to be a know-it-all and a dirty old man, you know, because somebody I looked up to, those are the two things they said about that person, and I thought they were so awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be a know-it-all and a dirty old man.
I could take it. All
Mhm.
right. So, when did you want to connect again? Probably like Monday-ish, somewhere around there.
We can talk anytime. Okay, if you want to schedule something for Monday, we can do that. Let me see. I don't think I got anything Monday and Tuesday. I don't think I got anything until late in the day.
Okay. And when do you
Um,
usually get your day started?
okay, it's spring break, so I don't have to do anything. And I was thinking about staying up late watching movies and stuff, which is what I was doing last night, like an idiot.
Yeah.
Uh, because when school opens up, then again, I got to be up and at 'em at 6 o'clock every morning. Now, I normally wake up around that time, okay? But the difference between waking up and getting up, you probably can understand that, okay? Um, so I would say my real day usually starts around 7, even when school is in session, because she is out the door at about 7:10. Okay, then that's when my day starts to belong to me.
Okay.
Before that, it's mostly about making sure that she does the things she's supposed to do because she's turning into a teenager, and you know how they can get. One day she's a child, the next day she's a woman. So
Yeah.
you don't know who's gonna wake up. The one that's gonna get up and do everything it's supposed to do and get it going, or the one that's gonna lay there and you gotta call them 3 times, and then you gotta
Yeah.
they did this, and you gotta check what they walking out the house and all that crap.
Yeah.
So it's keep you moving.
Okay. All right. So do you have any well, we'll talk about it on my day. Um I know probably in the coming weeks I'll probably just start doing like a podcast like once a month type of thing.
Mm,
So but I'll let you know as that develops and everything.
okay.
Alrighty. But alrighty, well, I'll let you get along with your day and stuff. I'm going to decompress and kind of review the footage and stuff and get to uploading things and all that good stuff. I'll start sending you a link to the stuff that I upload so you can see it once it's
Okay.
uploaded and everything. And I'll
Okay.
also send you those clips that I said I was going to send you so that you can have them in your, you can upload them when you want to.
Okay.
Alrighty. You have a good rest of the day.
You do the same. Well,